If you're watching this video, don't listen to a thing I'm about to say. This is a complete rant. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, and each time I reach Valhalla, there was definitely a controller being thrown against the wall. Even though I'm Valhallan, I'm a baby. So, Unarmed. It's the neutral state you start off with in Brawlhalla when starting a match. If you want a weapon, you're gonna have to fight for it. And if you don't grab it before your enemy, you take all the sorts of risks of being outplayed by your opponent's weapon, being easily read when trying to get a weapon yourself, and the most popular Brawlhalla term, being weapon hogged. Weapon hogging is throwing away other weapons to keep your opponent in a disadvantaged state against you. The more successful you win. So a lot of the time, you don't want to be left without a weapon, right? It's very clearly not a state you want to be in. Although Unarmed isn't useless. In fact, I'm dead to say if you practice well enough with Unarmed, you can perform even better with it than some weapons in the game. And that's not a good thing. Now before we hop into the issues with Unarmed, I'd like to ask you to join the Discord server. There's a lot of good shenanigans going on there, and I think that you could have a lot of fun in the server too if you joined. So with that being said, let's start off with the first issue with Unarmed. For a weapon that's unarmed, you could imagine it would be quite useless, right? Not much combo game, damage, and so on. Yeah, that's about the case. The only move it has that starts any combos is Downlight. So let's see what we have here. Downlight Ground Pound, yep, that's one of the more known combos in the game. Downlight Air, another solid one. Good damage buildup and such. Downlight Recovery? I mean, yeah, that one's okay, but isn't too viable. Alright, we got a few more. Let's look at the rest of them. We have Downlight Sair, Downlight Dare, Downlight GC Neutralite, Downlight GC Sidelight, Downlight Goddamn GC Downlight, Downlight GC Insig, Downlight GC Side Sig, Downlight GC Downsig. Okay, who was high when making these at BMG? Unarmed is unarmed. I'm fine with it having a few combos to fend for yourself. Just hear me out. Having Downlight combo with every single other move in its kit is beyond overkill. I'm confident there isn't a single other weapon in the game that even has the ability to do this with any of its moves. Unarmed deserves a few of these at most, but none of the gravity cancelled combos. I know, Downlight GC Downlight is a well-known one, people do too. But do you hear how stupid that sounds? Even Hammer Downlight GC Downlight is pretty stupid, but at least that one's on a weapon. And Hammer Downlight is quite a finicky move as well. Give it Ground Pound, Recovery, and Nair. Those are the only three people are using most of the time that seems even slightly fair. The other problem with Unarmed I have, which I'll explain more later in the video, is the amount of damage it does. On a 5 strength legend against a 5 defense legend, this is how much damage each move does. Pretty solid damages all around. Of course, Downlight has much less for its combo potential, but can still do over 20 damage in one combo. Downlight GC Downlight Ground Pound does what, nearly 30 damage for something that's supposed to be unarmed? That's besides the point. I wanted to bring up another weapon that made me believe Unarmed's damage wasn't fair. Battle Boots. Comparing the damages between Boots and Unarmed, I'm sorry, but this just isn't fair. I mean, come on, if you take Boots' highest damage Downlight combo, that being Downlight Sair, you're doing only 22 damage. Meanwhile, Unarmed can do Downlight Ground Pound and get more profit for personally less effort. Or the whole 33 damage combo with Downlight GC Downlight Ground Pound. Looking at the stats together, Unarmed's damage counts either completely match Boots or pass Boots. Nair, Recovery, and Ground Pound do the same damage, while Unarmed Neutralite, Downlight, Sair to an extent, and Dare do more damage than Boots' moves, being arguably safer to use too since they require less risk to perform. Although more precision too. So where am I leading with this? At first I thought this was an Unarmed issue, not Boots. So I looked at the damages for several other weapons. Examples I used were Gauntlets, Lance, Hammer, Sword, and Orb. And that's when I realized these weapons have absurd damage counts. Let's go in order. In Gauntlet Downlight, the move used to start combos, is an 11 damage move. Downlight Recovery can lead to a 28 damage combo, but if you're looking for something more simple, a Downlight Sidelight is a combo that does 25 damage. Lance Sidelight Dare does 24 damage, or if you do Recovery, around 26 damage. Hammer Downlight, as mentioned earlier, combos with most of the other hammer moves. When you do Downlight GC Downlight Nair, that's a whopping 38 damage combo. But if we're not counting 3-piece combos, I would suspect around 29 damage even for one of its more tame moves. Of course, Hammer is a heavy weapon, so high damage is a given. Sword has Downlight Ground Pound, which is a whopping 31 damage combo, but super situational, so let's go with Downlight Recovery, which is 27 damage. Lastly, with Orb, we have Dare Neutralite with 28 damage. Now you might be saying to me, but these are normal damage counts. What the heck are you talking about, lover lady? And you're right. Those are normal damage counts. They look like high damage counts when compared to Unarmed because, yeah, Unarmed is unarmed. It shouldn't have high damage counts. But then you look at Battle Boots, which, once again, its highest damage true combo is 22. There's a lot of things you could argue here. Battle Boots is a string heavy weapon, so its low damage is justified. And while I do agree with that, it's only to an extent. Scythe and Guitars are also string heavy weapons and don't have nearly as much damage. My gripe with this though is that Guitars and Scythe are much better at doing this than Battle Boots. Guitars can keep your enemy in a whole Guitar loop, Scythe can drag your opponents to specific positions to set up for offstage kills, But what can boots do? That doesn't offer that same offstage gameplay Scythe provides, and it sure as hell doesn't loop strings together like Katara's does. It strings together in its own unique ways, and that's kind of why it weirds me out. It's either that battle boots are weak and needs damage or force buffs, or unarmed needs nerfs. Because if you ask a lot of players, battle boots are a strong weapon. People win tourneys with battle boots, specifically with Tesca and Red Raptor. You can very easily win with the weapon, and I believe that. I don't think battle boots is a bad weapon, it's a fun weapon. It's proven itself to be a good weapon. So that's where Unarmed comes in. My third and final issue with Unarmed is that it isn't fun to fight, at all. At least not for me. When I fight somebody who's purposely playing Unarmed, I just wait and let them get a weapon. It isn't fun to deal with, and I sure as hell know other people don't like fighting it either. This Jiro I'm fighting in the background, he disconnected after his second stock. The reason Unarmed is so strong is to give enemies a fighting chance against weapon hogging and passive players, and I understand that. Although, at least around my elo, if you're unarmed, you're not at a disadvantaged state. I'm not saying nerf the force on unarmed because good lord that isn't the issue, but for how fast and flexible it is for a disadvantaged state, it shouldn't have the same amount of damage as one of the weapons in the game. It's a much bigger issue at hand, with passive play and weapon hogging being the reason unarmed is the way it is. I just think if the damage on unarmed gets nerfed significantly, it won't affect the way people play against the weapon via unarmed against an actual weapon. I don't like that this thing that isn't a weapon is being treated as a weapon. You start off with no weapons in the start of the game for a reason. You're supposed to fight for the first weapon drop, and if you win the interaction, you should be in an advantage state. So why does it feel like when I grab a weapon I'm in a neutral state still, or even on some occasions, a disadvantaged state? I don't know. Again, it's just a whole rant topic in my case. Unarmed performs really well, and that solves the issue of weapon hogging being too strong, but it makes Unarmed an absolute pain to fight, especially when it just flat out feels stronger than some of the weapons in the game. Okay, I lied. There's a fourth section. This is actually because my buddy Nick's Lover brought this up, and it's quite peculiar that this happens with Unarmed in the first place, but would be great to bring up in this video. Whenever you're grounded, any weapon will beat out Unarmed's attacks in terms of clashing. But when in the air, there's no priority at all, so light attacks can beat out recoveries. This is especially noticeable in Unarmed Air. Because Unarmed Air comes out so fast and hits at such a nasty angle, it's known for catching recoveries and gimping people at early HP. What BMG should do is add priority to air attacks, like grounded attacks have, so it doesn't happen anymore. It would also make confirming kills after throwing your weapon a lot harder. So it nerfs Unarmed in two ways, and adds something that, to be completely honest, should have been in the game a long time ago. Huge thanks to Nyx for bringing this one up, because let's be real, getting Unarmed Aired at white HP isn't fun for anyone. And it isn't exactly fair either. Now, do you think I'm an absolute psychopath? Please let me know what you think about Unarmed and how strong it is or how weak you think it is down in the comments. I really want to hear people's thoughts on this. And of course, if you enjoyed the content, then feel free to subscribe. It's free, and you can always unsubscribe at any time. Until next time, y'all remember to keep on brawling.